We're live, back once again. Uncut and Unfiltered here today, and we are going to be looking at Gordon and MacPhail. How are we today, gents? Ian, Stevie, we all good?
Yes, mate, we're good.
Whoop, whoop. Gordon and MacPhail is one of the oldest independent bottlers in Scotland, in the world. Over 125 years old. 128 years now, I suppose, if we're in 2023. Completed. A big brand name when it comes to independent bottlers. Obviously, this year they've announced that independent bottling isn't really going to be a core part of their business moving forward.
No, well, not for a while anyway. Yeah.
So it doesn't. I don't know. If at all. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, okay. I've heard different. So one of the things I heard is that they have a lot of spirits.
Oh,
a lot of cars.
Undoubtedly.
And so that they are going to continue to be an independent bottler for many years
until they run out.
Until they run out.
Right.
Yes. But they are no longer going to buy.
They're not investing in new stocks anymore.
No.
Did they start out as some sort of shop? They weren't a whiskey place, were they? They were like a grocery store or something.
Ian?
Johnny Walker started.
Yeah, I don't know if Gordon and MacPhail started as a grocery.
I'm pretty sure they did, and they sold things like teas and
maybe
things around the world, including whiskey. But
did you look into that specifically for the episode, or are we just making stuff up? I don't know. I honestly,
no, I'm not making stuff up just for fun of it. I think that is true.
That's legit. Okay, cool.
At least what I read.
Hey, cool.
So,
look, you taught me something new if that is the case.
Which would make sense. A lot of these old
for sure.
Start
over 100 years ago, for sure, they probably weren't just buying whiskey casks from distilleries and bottling them. No, you're absolutely right. I'm sure they did other bits and pieces. It's a brand for me that has always been one to watch, right? As an independent bottler, you cannot ignore Gordon and MacPhail.
I love Gordon and MacPhail.
They're such a big name. Everything, as we will explore today, from kind of entry-level drams. They've got some fantastic names out there, really well-known distilleries at entry-level prices. Equally, once you step up into their sort of slightly more premium ranges, again, we're very lucky that we'll be trying later today. They just hit everything on the head, seemingly. There are very few things that are failures.
Consistent.
And certainly there are some expressions, like with the distillery labels, where like that Liquid 15 has just been something that I go back to, you know.
There's something for everyone. And I think, again, their approach has been different to a lot of other people, right? They take spirit from other companies, not casks from other companies. I think that's kind of key to note.
Can you explain to the people what you mean there?
So they have, I believe, their history used their own casks. So they've sourced their own wood. They take therefore they're literally just taking the liquid from the distilleries, whereas most people will have the liquid filled into a cask and take the full cask, including the wood. Then they might re-rack it into something else later, but they're still taking basically a fully finished product from the distillery, whereas G&M have always just taken the liquid, put it in their own casks, and also matured it in their own warehouses, whereas again other independent bottlers will either maybe use the distillery's warehouse or another broker's warehouse.
So a lot of control there.
Yep.
Huge amounts of control. And this is the thing, you know, when you've got that level of control, as we will see, you can put out seriously consistent products, you know. So it's a brand for me. I've got a huge amount of love, huge amount of respect for them.
They own now, but has it been reacted?
Nope. It's still owned. It's a family-owned business. They now own Ben Romack.
Ben Romack. They own Ben Romack.
They own Ben Romack, and they also are building the Cairn distillery.
Their new distillery, which I'm guessing is what's going to replace.
They're still going to be in the whiskey game moving forward, absolutely. But exactly, they're taking control of the spirit now as well.
Would you not say, when you've done this for so long, so well?
So this is the thing. Is it risky? There are definitely risky elements to it. I think that ultimately the way the whiskey market is at the moment, you guys know, you're part of the Whisky Baron.
They see what's coming.
We've seen prices just skyrocket for no real reason other than investment firms selling to private individuals, people who have nothing to do with bottling companies, nothing to do with the whiskey industry, owning casks of whiskey. And, this whole investment world, it's just
inflating the market.
It's inflating prices dramatically. So, for me as a new indie, I don't really have much of a choice but to get into that market and try and find the great deals and do what I'm doing. But for guys who've been around for over 125 years, who, as Ian says, been, got filling contracts with probably pretty much every distillery that they want, I've been doing this for so many years, the difference in pricing is so significant. And so what I would imagine their focus is now is, well, we can either split our funds and continue to buy these overpriced stocks and hope that our name will drive the value forward, and so we can, up the prices whilst maintaining our margin sort of thing. Or we can focus on the distilleries that we are now pouring money into. Go on, Ian, just open your 12s. Look at him trying to be all quiet here, opening his little 12 bites off camera. And he's cracked open his Coca-Cola, you filthy animal. There we go. Ian's getting his sugar rush ready.
That is a
so
good
that we
point,
can crack
actually,
through
Jake,
another episode. But yeah, I think that they're focusing on what they want to focus on now, which is their own product from start to finish, right?
But also, going forward, they could probably still do what they do, right? Independent bottling.
Of course.
But not at the price point that they... Because that's one thing about Gordon MacPhail that I absolutely respect, is the pricing is normally 9 out of times out of 10 so fair,
right,
and reasonable.
And that's because they've been buying at filling prices from the distilleries, which is in essence the same cost as the distilleries pay themselves. Obviously, if you own your own distillery, it's the upkeep, it's the it's the whole production level, all of the overheads, and so you will pay a slight premium on it when it's first filled, but you hold it for 10, 12, 15, 20, however many years. That margin is eaten up very, very quickly, and so they can indeed put bottles out at very accessible prices.
What I will say is that they are still playing with market forces, right? They've got a new distillery to pay for. They're not planning on putting out liquid from that distillery, I think, until it's at least 12 years old. That is a very expensive venture. And especially some of their older stock that they've clearly been maturing in the warehouses for decades. Mm-hmm. The prices are commensurate with the market. They're not going, oh, well, we bought this cask bought this spirit even for £1 50 years ago. So we're now going to sell this 50-year-old whiskey for £100 or whatever. No, it's £5,000, it's £10,000, right?
Oh, for sure. They've got some very high-end, expensive bottles and very, very, I think, am I right in thinking that they bottled the oldest whiskey so far? Or
there's a running battle between them and Macallan, but the Macallans and the Macallan are bottling our stock that they bought back from Gordon MacPhail.
Right, okay.
Because Gordon MacPhail have an enormous amount of Macallan, and again, that is helping fund the distillery. They also bottled...
they bottled those dual Longmorns.
The very old Longmorns. There's a very old...
They were
the oldest Mortlach ever, at over 70 years old.
Right, yeah.
And
how old were the Longmorns?
They also bottled a...
I was going to say 50-something.
Yeah, I think 57.
They also bottled a 75-year-old Mortlach as well.
I was going to say that was the oldest Mortlach ever, and I think it might have been the oldest whiskey in the world at the time.
Yeah,
well.
I think it was. Yeah, so I don't know if someone's.
It's now been overtaken by a couple of different Macallans.
Right.
57. It was 57-year-old. They were £15,000 a bottle. £30,000 for the two. One of them. Sorry to interrupt you. That I tried these, which I'm so excited about it. The Longmorns were from 1961. One was matured in American oak and one was matured in European oak. And Gordon and MacPhail have a set of twins working for them. Is that the right way to say it? I don't know. A set of twins working for them, two gents. And basically what they did was they used these twins as like almost like an advertising campaign for the whiskies. Each twin represented one of the casks,
right.
And it was this whole nature versus nurture thing, right?
Yeah.
It was filled into the same type of cask, sherry casks. The only difference was American versus European oak. And I tried both of those whiskies, £15,000 a bottle. I was lucky enough to have a dram of each, and Jesus wept. They were sensational. But the European oak one in particular, I spent over half an hour on a 10 ml sample of that. You could literally sit down with a knife and fork and cut through that fucking thing.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So they do some seriously cool stuff. Very, very cool bottlings.
I believe they are aiming. I believe they're aiming to be the first people with 100-year-old.
Yes, I've heard this. I mean, there's quite a few people now in the race to get the first 100-year-old, it seems. But
and I was talking of your Longmorn. I was lucky enough to try their Milton.
Right.
So this is something that probably takes a little bit of explaining for most people. The legal entity for Strathila Distillery until just after the Second World War used to be Milton Distillery. However, everything was generally bottled under the Strathila name. However, the badging on the cask was Milton. But Strathila themselves and any other independent bottler at the time never actually released anything as Milton because they felt that people wouldn't understand it, and it always had Strathila.
For sure.
Strathila is now the legal name for the distillery, and anything on it now has to have Strathila on it, or unnamed Speyside. G&M still had a cask that had Milton on it, and they released what will be the only cask ever of Milton.
It is very cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
It was, I think, 70 or 71 years old as well, just to kind of add to the everything around it.
Yeah, the clamour of
Probably
everything.
not many bottles either.
No, a single cask. There were 200 odd bottles, 50 grand a pop.
Okay, yeah.
And I got to try that.
Is it good?
Absolutely delicious, mate.
For sure.
I think the problem is once you have to have an amount of money that I can't even imagine.
Well, this is the thing. We are so privileged. Like I say, the fact that I got to try both of those Longmorns to me was just like, oh my God. And it was quite early in my journey as well. So it was one of the first bottles that I got to try that was over 10 grand. And I was just like, oh,
and were these at tastings that you guys tried these?
Yeah, it was a tasting, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
And this is the thing. Gordon MacPhail are great for showing up at events and sharing, now that they've got their distilleries as well. They're doing some cool things. They're definitely one to watch with their distilleries, even if they're not going to continue, being the beast of the independent bottler that they have been to date.
Well, enough talking. And let's get
enough
pouring,
chat.
right?
Let's pour. So Discovery series first is kind of an entry level.
Yep, the affordable end of the spectrum. These are all at 43%, I think, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yep. And this is an 11-year-old Glenrothes. It says sherry cask matured on the bottle.
So,
how long has this series range been around for? Is it
Discovery, not that long.
I was going to say it's a newer one, right?
I believe so.
And would you say this is the kind of like cool range? This is kind of their quite approachable.
I'd say this is their entry level range. Yeah,
30, 40, 50 quid and up.
I don't know if it's as low as 30. I think
there is definitely one around 40.
Yeah, I was going to say like 45 to 60.
Yeah,
I think 45 to maybe 60, 70 at tops. I think. Do
you remember what you paid for this? The 11.
I was just thinking.
Better get on Google, mate.
Pay for these actually.
Yeah, I don't think I've had any of these Discovery expressions actually.
I have not either.
So yeah, you can get the Glenrothes 11-year-old for £54 currently on Master of Malt.
Did you say 43%?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have said that.
Less?
No, actually, I would have said more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is actually a really quite a lovely expression. This is one of the ones that I bought today, and I think that it kind of, to me, reminds me a little bit of a tame version of our Glenrothes 12. It's like really delicious.
Yeah.
It's quite a full and rich dram though, and you're right, for 43%, I think it's got a beautiful body, a really wonderful character, a great mouthfeel. It's definitely not too thin. Or is it? It's thick. There we go. Stevie's seal of approval.
Oh, that's interesting, because I was thinking it was...
Oh, you don't think it's got as much of a body to it, no?
I don't know, couple of drams in today already, and other things were at higher strength, so that's probably...
For sure. I think for 43%, I think it's quite nice. I think it's got quite a lot of character.
It's pleasant. I think I do get a bit of the Glenrothes spirit from it. I think I probably just need to wind myself back to the fact it's £55, and what else can you get for £55?
Right.
So I think okay. I think I've said this in a couple of other episodes, right? You have the Bunner 12 / Springbank 10 test.
Right.
God, you always go about that bloody Bunner 12s, don't you? You're getting paid for this.
I fucking wish. A bunch of other influencers get to go to Bunnahabhain all the fucking time, and they never invite me to anything. And it's one of my favourite distilleries. I have 30 bottles I paid for with my own money on the shelf, and I never get invited to shit. So if you're listening, Julianne or anyone else from Bunnahabhain, please fucking invite me. I would love to come.
So funny.
Sorry, Ian.
That's 40 quid.
Sorry.
And Springbank 10, you can pop down Cadenhead, is finally like regularly available now, not from a lot of places, or when batches come out, if you're on the money, you'll be able to get one within 24 hours. That's 50 quid.
Right.
My only problem with this is it's 55 quid. It's not as good as either of those two whiskies.
Right.
All right then. Well,
That's your opinion.
that's said and done. Shall we move on to the next?
Yeah.
All right.
I quite like it. I think it's yummy. It's like I say, kind of reminds me of our one. It's wonderful fruit. It is, definitely an element of that classic sort of orchard fruit style.
I want to say like the alcohol feels a lot stronger than it is, but I think that's the spirit coming through that. That's a really kind of good example of Glenrothes spirit right there, holding on and integrating with the sherry so well. 43 in the blind. Honestly, this is like early 50s. Easy.
For sure. And it's interesting because with our 12-year-old, I didn't want to water it down anymore. We bottled ours at 57, which is obviously a massive difference.
Yep.
And I do feel that this would sing a lot more had it been left at a higher strength. But then, kind of to your point, this is an entry-level expression, right? This is their entry-level range. And actually, I think that if I was a relatively new drinker, my first time trying Glenrothes, I'd be really happy with this. I would be delighted, actually.
Definitely.
It's a great
especially for the price.
And this is it. For the price, you can't really go far wrong. Fine, maybe there are a couple of other things out there that are better, but this is the ongoing debate with all of us, right? What can you get? What's the best value? I think this is still really, really quite delicious. But enough. Let's continue on. We'll chat and we'll move.
We've upgraded to a box now.
Yes,
Love the boxes.
So, sorry, which one are we starting? Sorry, we don't have the Mortlach, do we?
Well,
Yeah, I bought another empty bottle.
It's such a good one. It's
how good
such
is
a
this one, Stevie?
It's really good. That's my second.
It's so
empty
good
bottle.
that it's empty. And that's how
Can I
good
tell
it
you a
is.
little story if anyone cares to listen? I think it actually was, again, back to the first lockdown. We went up to Scotland for some reason and we managed to kind of blag our way into some accommodation. Do you remember on the seafront there? We were going up to, I believe, Whiskey Broker. We got into an Airbnb,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah,
You had this in your bag.
yeah.
And I was still quite early on in my whiskey journey, and I remember
this
seeing
very
that,
well, actually. That's
and I remember being really impressed by something because by that point I hadn't really seen anything in a box, especially a box like that. And I thought, fuck, that must have been like a lot of money,
Right.
And you were like, you need to try this, fucking great. And I did. I loved it. Again, impressed by the box and everything like that. And I think at the time, and I don't think it's changed since, it was around 80 quid, 70, 80 quid.
I think it's 70-ish,
quid?
yeah. But yeah, probably a little bit more now.
And the funny thing about that, with my kind of young whiskey brain, I was like, fucking hell, that's expensive.
For sure.
Might
For
look
sure.
at that.
Hey, look, and it
Yeah.
is.
No, it is.
When you're at that point in your journey.
Where now,
Definitely.
I will keep
It's
that
so
top
worth
up.
the money.
Keep that top
for
up
you,
because
yeah.
it's so strong.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
also they've bumped these. So I was just looking. This one is now 46%. That one was 43%. Recently, in the last year, all of these have been bumped up a little bit to 46, which is great because normally you're seeing people going the other way, if anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Is this your bottle, mate? Do you want to crack it?
Yeah, you open it. Here's my bottle. Yeah, and again, the liquid is just another great example of what the Mortlach has done. This sort of what is it? This distillery label series.
Mortlach's obviously become a bit more of its own thing recently, but I think the great thing about this series is they're generally highlighting distilleries that in the past have not had a huge amount of OB love, right?
Right.
So you see Linkwood, there's Ardmore, there's Mortlach, and whatever Siri has found.
Get on my nerves.
Glen Tucker's is another one, right? We fucking love Glen Tucker's here on the podcast.
No, you're right, Ian. I think, and this is it. To me, that is the job of an independent bottler, right? To shine a light on distilleries that maybe other people don't know, haven't heard of, something interesting for you to try.
We've also had it was either Lingwood or Mortlach. Maybe they have like a 7-year-old in this
25.
So 25 in
25-year-olds, yeah.
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 Which is just
Another level up.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I love them, and they're still 70-80 quid if you can find the 15. Yeah, but brilliant expressions, as you say.
Again, you can pick them up on auction normally for, if they're not available locally to you, for at most their resale price. And the retail prices are not unreasonable either.
Not at all.
No, this is so good. It's creamy, a little bit biscuity.
And you're right, Jake. If it wasn't for independent bottlers, you wouldn't get into these types of distilleries,
You wouldn't hear of them as much.
wouldn't hear of them,
No, absolutely.
'Cause they're just going to
absolutely.
blends
Like
or-
Ian says, you've got the Diageo special releases and stuff where maybe you see bits and pieces here and there, but it is kind of down to independent bottlers. And like I said at the beginning, Gordon MacPhail is, one of the goats because they've been around for ages and they've been doing this since before it was fucking cool. Like, let's be honest, right? They've been doing this for so fucking long. They're the OGs. They know the different brands that they work with. They know the casks that they're working with, as Ian says. I think that they are an incredible company for consistency and for collaboration with different brands, shining a light on. And like I say, that to me is what an independent bottler should be doing. You shouldn't be, look at me, look at my brand. Oh, I'm so special. Ultimately, you didn't fucking make the whiskey. Maybe you changed it a bit. Maybe you re-racked it. Maybe you blended it. Whatever. You put your own mark on it. But ultimately, you've got somebody else's hard work and labor there, right? So you've got to give a bit of love to them.
And Steve, you said this one's about 70 quid?
Don't quote me, but I believe it's not far off.
Yeah. I mean, assuming it's 70 quid for £15 above the Glenrothes, big
jump in quality. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, it is. It's a much richer.
Depends where you buy it, 75 to 85 quid. So yeah, still.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think these ones generally go for more closer to £80 now, whereas you're right. When we were buying back, it was probably £65, £70. Yeah. But even still, the fact that they've managed to keep that pricing fairly consistent, again, as an independent, you look at some of the distilleries and the pricing that distill, I go back to it again and again and again and again and again, but Aberlour fucked up when it came to the Abanar series.
Double the price, right?
Yep.
Over double.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Like that.
Well, and
It was insanity. One of my favorite whiskies.
That was like 2019.
No, that was that was one of
yeah.
the first ones that they just all of a sudden it was like, what's fucking happening?
Well, and look, Mortlach, in their most recent rebranding, they've obviously got a core range out there, which is great, and it's fantastic whiskey. But their 16-year-old, I think, is now about 100 and 110 pounds. So again,
I thought it was close to 150. But yeah, I to be honest, I don't look at the Mortlach OB range for exactly that reason. It's pricey. And you look at the Gordon MacPhails, you look elsewhere, and you can actually find some more reasonable
they've
prices.
just announced they brought on, I can't remember his name off the head, a new French creative director at Mortlach, which seems to me that's probably going to lead to prices just going
up again,
up even more.
Right. Fair enough.
It's great whiskey, but
I think it's one of those ones where it's a bit of a cult favorite, and people who are in that cult are willing to pay that premium. And don't get me wrong, I love it as it's such a cool brand and it's such a great liquid. You know how much love I've got for worm tubs. I just don't know. Like I say, I don't think I'm part of that cult. I don't think I'm there.
Look, it's something I would love to treat myself to at some point. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. Last whiskey show, so 22, I got to try the Mortlach 30. And when that got announced, I assumed incorrectly it was going to be a hot fucking mess.
Right.
It was finished in 4 different cask types.
Okay.
And I just thought, what is so wrong with this whiskey that it needs to go into 4 finishes, have 4 different finishes and then be married back together? It was phenomenal. I tried it alongside a 46-year-old Port Ellen, and it was better.
Wow.
To me,
that's
at
high
least.
praise. Yeah. Do you know what the finishes were? Can you remember?
God, I'd have to look it up.
Because that sort of thing reminds me of like the Dalmore quintessence, right? Is it the quintessence?
Yeah, that's got 5 different.
I thought it was 7. But yeah, it's a lot of wine casks, isn't it? Basically,
But that's a lot of wine casks. It was a very varied list of finishes. It's not 4 finishes you would think would necessarily fit well together.
Okay,
work together.
Interesting.
It was £2,000 a bottle for a 30-year-old.
And this is the thing. Look, people will jump at that. People will pay that all day long, and some people will look at that and go, "Well, you look at Macallan, you know,
Not a good benchmark.
Sorry.
Yeah, not a good benchmark.
Not a good benchmark.
Well,
To compare things to Macallan,
but I'm saying some people will say, "Oh, well, you know, Macallan sold for more, you know, $2,000 bottles, all right." You know, I personally feel that is a lot, and that's it. I just don't feel I'm part of that cult, you know.
No.
Whereas, as I said, you know, recently, like that Springbank Burgundy, I'd pay over the odds for. Certain Glentockers, not that you have to most of the time, because it's just not one of these, you know, the cult of Glentockers drinkers have a bit more mind to them. No, there's quite a few of us now, man. But I think that we're a bit more sensible. We don't let the prices be driven up, you know? And I think that that's the issue with Mortlach is it is now such like a...
I mean, even their kind of like cool range, what does it start off on? Is it a 12 or a 15?
12.
Yeah. I mean, that's pricey enough, you know?
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't really like the look of it.
Oh, what, in the kind of rectangular bottle?
Don't like it.
You get a box, I think, as well.
Don't like it.
You get a box.
I don't like it, mate. Don't like it. Yeah, no, it's not. I'm not a fan. I would much sooner turn to a G&M.
Yeah. I think the same price. Probably.
You know, it makes more sense to me personally. But it's a really cool brand, and it's one that I'd love to get involved more with, because ultimately, because of that price barrier, you know, and the fact that Diageo do kind of keep such a tight hold on it because it's one of their premium brands now, it's difficult to get hold of. I'd love to bottle a Mortlach. I would be ecstatic to bottle a Mortlach.
Does it come up often in the kind of cask market?
Hey, look, you can find it, but it's just one of those ones that people charge such a fucking premium on,
right,
for the brand name, and it doesn't translate. You know, especially you look at this. I wouldn't be able to buy a Mortlach 15-year-old and sell it for 70, 80 quid.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Good fucking luck to me. Do you know what I mean? Unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. One of the gems in Diageo's lineup, and sorry, we're drinking this Liquid at the minute. We should probably be talking a little bit more about the Liquid. Liquid again, a serious gem in Diageo's lineup, and kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, probably fits into the Gordon MacPhail range a bit more, in as much as they are singing the praise of a distillery that isn't as well known, that is predominantly blended, and a serious whiskey, you know. It's fucking high quality. For everyone at home, if you're thinking, oh, you know, I want to buy a present for somebody, or I want to get a whiskey, I'm kind of new to whiskey, I don't want anything that's too offensive. I want something that's kind of light and approachable but still has character and Liquid, right? I would always turn to Liquid.
I've got a big soft spot for Liquid.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's robust enough to work in a few different styles as well.
Do they have any OBs? They don't, do they?
So it's part of the Flora and Fauna range. Diageo has
if you want
a 15-year-old
OB then, but
well, I mean, it is an OB in as much as it's part of Diageo's range.
Yep.
But no, past that, I don't think they do, right?
No.
I haven't even. It's not even been part of the special releases for many years now.
Quite a minute. Yeah, that's true as well.
Right,
Yeah, that's very, very true.
Okay.
Very true.
So there's very few other opportunities to try it.
Which is a shame. Like I say, I'm excited. We've got Liquid, under management. We're going to use it in blends because I think it's such a good blending whiskey. It brings other whiskies to life and rejuvenates certain things. But equally, as a standalone single malt, we've got some stuff that we're looking at. And yeah.
Just before we move on, Ian, the distillery labels are, again, like our auction, are such a good sweet spot for affordable, really high quality whiskies.
Yeah.
There are so many out there.
And something that looks beautiful on your shelf, something that will really impress as a gift.
Absolutely. Yeah. I bought one of these, I think, from Ryan Counter, and he was like, bloody hell, mate, you didn't need to.
Yeah. Don't worry, mate. It's all right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
But yeah, no, exactly.
It's one of them.
Great gift.
Cool.
So after that, I guess you then move up to the Connoisseur's Choice.
Which is where it takes another jump up.
So there's stuff available from about £100 in the Connoisseur's Choice up until, I guess, about the £500 level, where you then reach into the kind of slightly poorly named upper Connoisseur's Choice, because you're a better source of connoisseur at that point in time. You were talking about Glen Tuckers.
Love it.
You've tried this one before, mate.
Yeah. Do we want to tell that story or do we want to skip
quite
over
funny,
that
actually.
mishap? Fucking Egypt that I am. So, so you guys went to a whiskey show without me.
Yep.
As you do. This new enthusiast series has got running all over the fucking world.
We're more enthusiastic.
But no, so you guys went off to a show and you were filming all sorts of content and chatting to all sorts of people, and you got some really cool samples that you dropped off with me, right?
Yep.
Some of them were for me from the show, and some of them were for our next podcast episode that we were to film in a week or two. I was given, what was it? It was the Abelauer. It was, funnily enough, it was the Abelauer Abuna, wasn't it?
It was the other one. It was the ex-bourbon finish. Is it still called
Abuna Alba.
Alba.
Abuna Alba, that was it. So you dropped that off with me and you said, it's in that small bottle there, mate. Have a go on that. It's yours. It's all yours. Cool. And I didn't realise that Ian had equally put in a small bottle. It's not that small a bottle, but 20 cents.
Of a 25
20 centilitre, 25-year-old Glen Tockers in there for our next podcast. I mistook them, and Abelauer was getting all sorts of praise from me for about a week and a half.
I was on the phone to you, and I think you were just catching me like, "Fuck, mate, this is fucking good." And I was like,
Sensational.
"This is all right," but
I was like, the alcohol, is it still high strength? Like definitely. Fuck, the alcohol's so well integrated. This tastes like a seriously old whiskey, man. And of course, it was a 25-year-old Glen Tockers. So well done, Jake. There we go.
In sherry as well, with your bourbon matured. No age
I
statement.
did actually say that to him as well. I was like, "Are you sure that this is bourbon?" Because it's quite dark and it's really quite special.
So it's first fill sherry butt as well, of all things.
So close.
57%. 595 bottles. So I guess, from an ABV percentage, I can understand why you could get it confused, because that's a good old strength after 25 years.
I tell you what, it is a cracking strength, but it's so well integrated, and you wouldn't get that from an Abuna, whether it's an Alba or whatever. It's great whiskey. Don't get me wrong, but
these
it's special.
Connoisseur's Choice bottles, they don't come in a box, do they?
They do, same box as the...
So they do come in a box. In fact, what we're talking about, I've got the fucking Latte, which I think is Connoisseur's, not a...
Yeah, it's a slightly darker colour, but they're exactly the same box.
Right, okay.
The upper Connoisseur's Choice are in a stouter bottle.
So when you say upper...
It's just the next
the
range.
more premium.
Yeah,
so there is
range up.
there are two further ranges. There is the upper Connoisseur's Choice and then the private label.
Right, which they really should have skipped upper Connoisseur's Choice.
It's so awkward,
It's
isn't
such
it?
a stupid thing to say. You sound
make
like
any
such
sense.
a toffee little wanker going into. Can I have? Do you have any upper?
Because there's a
Connoisseur's
Connoisseur-
Choice?
Yeah, I'm an upper connoisseur, please. I don't want any of your...
You know,
You sound like a dick.
Because apparently I'm a lower connoisseur.
Right, do you know what I
That's the
mean?
connotation, right?
Weird. It's really weird.
So the bottles are considerably... They're probably about 2 inches shorter.
still 70 CL.
Still 70 CL, yeah. So it's a wider bottle, and they come in a
Chunky
wooden
bottles.
box.
Oh.
And then the private labels, I think, are slightly shorter still. Or if they're not, they're again slightly wider with maybe more glass at the bottom,
Right.
and an even fancier, wider, and darker wooden box. The upper connoisseurs have a kind of natural oak, and then it's a rich mahogany. For the
They go for
private
a lot.
collection.
I've seen them. They go for
They start at about 1,200 quid. So the Connoisseur's Choice are probably 100 to 500. The upper connoisseurs, you're looking at 500 to about 1,100, and then 1,100 upwards for the private collection.
Oh, I'm a big fan of the label, the layout, of the details and things like that.
It's really, really cool.
The-
And again,
yeah.
it's because they've been doing, they're old school. They've been doing this for time. They know what people want to fucking know. They know the pertinent details that are important, right? I think it's fucking awesome. Really, really cool. And this is so delicious.
Yeah, I was going to say a lovely.
So the only thing I would say about this, like the only negative thing, and I'm trying to come up with something negative because we've been so kind to Gordon MacPhail. We need to take them down a run. The only thing I would say about Glen Tockers, for me, and we've said before, we're all big, big fans of Glen Tockers, and it works in a variety of different styles. For me, I personally prefer sherried Glen Tockers younger and bourbon matured Glen Tockers older.
You would say that, though, wouldn't you?
Well, what do you mean? I would say that. I've just said it for a reason, mate. That's what I prefer. I just said. So if you were to compare this, sorry, what's the strength on this again, Ian?
57.
Which is whopping, which is really cool in and of itself. But if you were to compare this to our 22-year-old Glen Tockers, I would say that our 22-year-old Glentockers comes out head and shoulders above it, right? Which I know sounds like such an arrogant thing to say, but I didn't touch that cask. It was a single cask, untouched, no water, no nothing. Came out at 48.1 or something.
So the one that's kind of green.
Yes,
Exactly.
colour.
It's a green, really green coloured whiskey, like olive oil.
Yep.
And it was just so incredible. And then equally, we did that 6-year-old sherry, which was fucking incredible as well. And I personally feel this is wonderful, is really, really delicious. I don't know if it needed 25 years of maturation, you know? I think it would have worked really well at 15 as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
It's not to take away from it. I appreciate what it is as its own, in its own right. That's my personal sort of.
it's clearly not,
Preference.
given it's 25 years in sherry, clearly not a hugely active first fill cask.
Correct. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying because it has taken away some Glentockers from the Glentockers.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
I love it still. It's beautiful. It's really, really cool.
Sorry, are you
Very
saying
special.
the age has or the sherry has?
The sherry.
I think the
Yeah,
time
I
in
agree.
sherry has just
Yeah.
rubbed a little bit of the Glentocker sheen off of it.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get Glentockers that is 20 years old plus, it's actually a really fucking special liquid. Like,
As in, like, what becomes delicate? Or
yeah, it just becomes
Yeah.
so refined, so delicate, so intricate. And
you
I
need
think
to be careful what you do with it.
And I think
Yeah.
you do. I think you do. And it's something that I've only come to the conclusion of in the last probably year or so. Because as I've said before, I think Glentockers works in everything, at any age,
Yeah.
in any cask. We've done first fill bourbon maturation, we've done refill bourbon, we've done sherry bourbons, we've done sherry hogsheads, we've done all different sorts of shit. I've got some wine casks that I'm going to be using. There's loads of great stuff that Glentockers works in, and I think it's an awesome and very, very diverse liquid.
This is very enjoyable, though.
Oh, it's so
It's
good.
That aside.
delicious.
Yes, yeah, no, it
Like,
is. You have to
it is-
appreciate it.
And what does this retail at, Ian?
I think I paid about £220.
Okay,
for
getting
this.
up there. Yeah.
It's not cheap, but
Well,
it's yummy.
25-year-old single malt, 57%.
Single cask as well,
And This
presumably.
was, single cask, of course. And this was released in 2022 sometime. So about 18 months
Equally,
ago.
and it's featured in 2 episodes, I believe now. The 20-year-old Lecheg that I have in sherry was only around 140, 150 quid. Granted, 5 years, right? But still. Do you believe
That was
you
very
got
good.
value for money?
I think I ended up paying a little bit more. So I think this was originally released at like 199 or 195.
I was
and
going to say, I would have thought it would be closer to 180. actually, yeah.
I missed out originally, and I think I just paid slightly over the odds at a shop, but it was also going for about that on auction by the time you took into account fees. So
I don't think you overpaid for it at all.
just a smidge, right?
But it's not a disappointment, right? It's worth it. I think it's yummy.
So, but I put it in as part of a big Glentuckers tasting that I was doing.
I remember you saying.
Yeah. So we had both of the Whisky Baron bottles in there, a bunch of others at various different ages, the Ushki bottle as well, going right up to what I believe is the oldest Glentuckers that's ever been released, which is the Master of Malt 44.
Oh, wow.
Which is very good value at £495 for a single cask, single malt. And there was also an upper Connoisseur's choice in the lineup, an SMWS and 2 sister casks that Berry Brothers and Rudd had. And actually, there was an almost even split around the room in terms of what people's favourites were.
That's interesting.
And there were some very clear favourites, right? I think if you were taking into account price, the 6-year-old would have taken everyone's vote.
Okay.
When you take price completely out of the equation, actually, the 44-year-old kind of went kind of by the wayside. No one,
Really?
people enjoyed it, but I think they
It's
kind
more
of
of an oddity of it being a 44-year-old Glentocker sort of thing. Yeah.
absolutely
What was it in?
refill sherry, but very light. You get hardly any sherry influence.
Okay. Interesting.
The 21-year-old Whisky Baron,
22-year-old,
sorry, 22-year-old Whisky Baron,
Yeah.
and the 2 Berry Brothers casks, which were 96 vintages, so 24 24s or 25s in bourbon were the three winners. So I think the basically bourbon Glentuckers around
20
kind
to
of
25
25 was the, you know, they were the clear standouts.
For sure. No, and this is it. Like, I think the Glentuckers, like we say, you know, that 6-year-old, it works great. This, I think, would work great at a younger age. I've tried loads of really, really young Glentuckers. In fact, I've talked about this before. The reason I bottled that 6-year-old is because of a Carnmore 6-year-old, right? And that just changed my world. That was one of the first independent whiskey bottles that I bought. Certainly one of the first sub 10-year-old bottles that I bought that I just went fucking bananas over. And I bought, 4, 5, 6 of them probably, and just churned it down. Because, again, they were like 35, 40 quid at the time. It's a fucking joke, right? I do think that 20 to 25-year-old bourbon, refill bourbon if we can, just let the distillery character sing.
Yeah. Those sister casks were very, very interesting. I'm really glad I bought both, and I think it was fascinating, especially tasting them with other people, right?
For sure.
The first one of them was a very leaky cask, and there were only about 80 bottles available from it. And it was almost reminiscent of a 96 Ben Nevis in the fact that it's very, very fruit forward and kind of tropical in a way that you would expect Glentuckers to be more orchardy.
Right.
And that kind of slightly kind of funky, dirty fruit that you could again get on the 96 Ben Nevises quite a lot of the time. The other cask, again, distilled same day, a lot of a much tighter cask. I think there were 180 bottles, nearly 200 available. So more than double.
For sure.
But very classic Glentuckers, just
right.
Orchard fruits for days. Lovely crisp sugariness to it. Beautiful fruity whiskey. Just, if you were going to say, I know it's not really a thing anyway, right? But if you were to say to someone, Speyside whiskey, and here's what AI is going to come up with,
right?
It would be that.
Yeah, that's one thing I have to agree with you again. Yeah, Glentuckers is, for me, the epitome of a Speyside whiskey. It's beautiful.
Very impressive.
This is yummy.
As are all of them. Shall we move on?
Yep.
Last one.
Caol
Ila
from the Discovery series.
Yep. So again, a slightly more
entry
entry-level one, but a peated one, which is why we put it last, obviously. 13-year-old Caol Ila. I think this was a little bit more expensive.
43%. It says smoky with peat. Doesn't say what the casks are, so presume bourbon casks.
What do you reckon you paid for this?
I
90
think it was,
quid?
I think it was
please.
65. I might be wrong. So the other one was 55. This one, well, £55.74.
Oh, really?
Okay,
Yep.
good. I was going to say £90. I'd be getting quite upset.
I thought it was 60, 65 pounds. Yeah.
Sorry.
What made you mind passing in a new glass?
A 13-year-old, is it?
This is 13-year-old, yeah.
It's not uncommon to see a 12-year-old Caol Ila go for 70, 80, 90 quid, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Correct. Sorry. But from Gordon MacPhail at 43%, sorry. I wouldn't expect it to be too much more than, £70, I think would be the top end.
I think, mate, you're looking at maybe single cask, like 12-year-old sherry Caol Ila single casks getting up that point. Like
maybe I am.
Bourbon like that, I'd be.
These days.
Oh, yeah. Well, no. Fine. Anything's possible, but not having my money at that point. There were a series there were a couple of 2 or 3 Adelphis that came out over the course of a couple of years. Started off about 75, went up to about 85, 90 quid by the end. Of wonderfully meaty, quite heavily sherried Caol Ila single casks.
Right.
Absolutely delicious.
Heavily sherried from Adelphi.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm.
Yeah.
God, I didn't expect that, to be honest.
So are these the 3, apart from the private collection and the upper Connoisseur's Choice collection? Discovery, Distillery labels, Connoisseur, and the private collection. That's their ranges, right? Or am I missing anything? Apart from their one-off fucking 75-year-olds.
Yeah.
So
missing a couple of things, but that's the core of it, I think.
They have Spey Malts, which is their Macallans.
Right.
Um,
And it doesn't fall under any of these labels, no?
no, they have their own labels, Spey Malt.
Okay.
I think that's it. There have been other things in the past. There was like a MacPhail's
Right.
label. I've not seen any of those being released for a very long time. You'll still be able to see them on auctions. So yeah, I think Spey Malt is the only other thing that I can think of off the top of my head. So, and that's always Macallan.
So for people, and I'm sure a lot of you have already dived into Gordon MacPhail, if you're getting into it, there's a Discovery range, perfect for price point. Some good liquids, as we're tasting here with Caol Ila.
Yep.
Distillery labels are great. And then if you want to spend a bit more, Connoisseur's choice.
I think as a new drinker, trying to explore and find out about distilleries, the Discovery range
It's a very affordable way.
it's kind of, in my mind, unbeatable from an affordability point of view for a new drinker in the independent market. To be able to, to be able to explore different distilleries where it's named distilleries, it's good quality spirits that are actually representative of that distillery.
The quality.
That is a Glen Rothes. This is a Caol Ila. This is beach bonfire. It's a little bit of salt. It's wonderful. It's light. It's quite sweet. The peat is very well integrated.
I'm not too sure, Ian.
Look, all I'm going to say is Glen Rothes have got a core range in their little grenade bottles.
But as a new drinker, going out and buying direct from distilleries can be quite daunting.
What? No.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know the opposite.
As a new drinker, you don't know anything about different brands. You don't know what you're getting into. I think buying direct from a brand is more daunting than going to an independent where you can trust the quality based on what you've tried from them.
We did the first episode of the Enthusiast series has been out for a little while. You can watch it
somewhere
here. Talking about my journey, right? I took a really long time before I dipped my toe into the waters of independent bottlers.
Right, okay. That's interesting.
And I've spoken to a bunch of people who are in exactly the same situation. I totally get what you're saying, and I think for some people, being able to choose from a brand that has got such variety and consistency is great. But at the same time, I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, maybe I like some sherry, maybe like that, or, they're looking for OBs, right? Like, it's one of the reasons why OBs are able to charge more generally.
Yeah.
And for me personally, obviously, decade in at this point, plus, I'm sat here kind of wondering, £56, that's got to be at least £15 more than a Caol Ila 12 OB, which is also at 43%, if I remember right. What am I getting from this for my £12 extra that I don't get from a Caol Ila 12?
For a lovely box.
Fair enough. No, with that one, you're not getting a box, actually.
You don't get a box.
Oh, no, you don't.
With the Discovery series.
You get a tube.
Do you get a tube?
Actually, he's right, you do get a tube.
You get a box with a Caol Ila 12.
Okay.
No, joke aside.
No, I hear what you're saying there, Ian. I do hear what you're saying. And it's not to say that, I'm not saying you should go to an independent and fuck off the OBs, because I'm just saying from the point of view of getting into whiskey and exploring a bunch of different flavors, it's how I did it. Maybe that's that's my experience. My experience was, like I say, it's Glendronach to begin with, and a couple of really big distilleries, but then it was Carnmore. And then, it was all of a sudden, it was trying to, and Gordon MacPhail played a massive part in my exploration of different brands.
And I think that's great. But I think for me personally, this Discovery series, to kind of really nail it, needs to be doing something a little bit different. You've got a bourbon Caol Ila 13, so you've got an extra year. You've got a Glen Rothes 11 minus a year, and they're both about, or a little bit more than the equivalent core OB, doing exactly the same thing. For me, this needs, so maybe you say, I'm going to have my Caol Ila 13 in sherry, or I'm going to have my Caol Ila 13 in
but
wine.
Then you wouldn't be discovering Caol Ila.
Would you not? I don't know.
No, and I think,
do you know what I mean?
think that I agree with Stevie there. I definitely hear what you're saying, and I think where you're at in your journey, I agree with you. You know, where it's not something that I would, but I think for new drinkers, exactly that. Stevie's hit the nail on the head. It's called the Discovery series for a reason.
But then you have to discover because you're the same or better on price.
Okay. Yeah, no, look, point taken. I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. I just think for me, it was such a core part of my exploration. It made me feel a lot more comfortable. Because let's be honest, you can buy a lot of OBs and they're not that great.
Exactly.
And I would say that, to be honest, Glenrothes is one of those distilleries that is fucking awesome liquid. And every time I have a single cask or every time I get stocks in and I'm sampling them, I'm blown away by my Glenrothes stuff.
Especially when you're new and you're so overwhelmed with everything out there, you should be able to go to an OB and trust it, right? And as you say, a lot of the times we can mention lots of names here, that it's a fucking letdown.
Yeah.
Whereas the independents can, as you say, let you discover that.
And I don't think paying a
distillery.
slight premium on that is a bad thing. I think that's kind of that's the price you pay, right? I think that is the price you pay. Because otherwise you can very much go down the route of somebody like Jack. Don't get me wrong, it's a great route and he's happy. He found a distillery that he loved, Aaron, and then he went fucking down that
all
hole.
in.
And he's going deep. He's not going wide, he's going fucking deep, right? And that's great.
To the core.
But for me, I want to try all these different things. And don't get me wrong, like I say, some OB ranges are just like, that slaps so fucking hard. But then Glentockers,
There isn't one.
there is, well, not really, right?
There isn't one.
Well, there's the 15-year-old Ballantines
Yeah,
one,
whatever.
But yeah, correct. There isn't really a core range.
A core range of one is not a core range.
The Glenrothes,
That's a core bottle.
no, for sure. The Glenrothes core range does not impress me. It really doesn't.
No.
You're right, with Caol Ila, I would agree. I think the 12 is better value for money and it does similar thing. So fair enough. I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. I personally just think it's an exciting place to be as an independent bottler. I think Gordon MacPhail do it so well. I think it's hard to slate them.
So look, I've been moaning about those two bottles over the course of this episode. I feel I am right in moaning about them. And I genuinely feel like if you're going to be an independent bottler, discover something new, and that newness has to be.
You feel that the indie needs to put their own stamp on it.
I think they do that, the distillery labels.
No,
well,
so
Connoisseur's choice.
Exactly, and that's the thing. What I'm saying is these distillery labels are fantastic because they're 46%. They're highlighting distilleries which generally don't have a core range, with the exception of Mortlach, and they are very fairly priced, and especially compared to Mortlach, when you can do a direct comparison, and the quality is right up there as well. You can buy that 25-year-old distillery labels Mortlach for far less, I think, than the Mortlach 20 is official. And there was a 25-year-old special release that came out a few years back that was the same price as about
the OVs
three
well overpriced to me
of them.
But
so don't get me wrong, this is not me moaning at G&M in general, because I just think those discoveries are not great. I think the distillery labels are amazing. The Connoisseur's Choice, fantastic. You know, we've raved about that Lacheg, amazing whiskey. This Glentuckers is fantastic. On a previous episode, we featured a Ben Rinus, which I think we all really enjoyed as well.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. I have to disagree with you just from the point of view, like I say, we're talking to people at home who maybe are earlier on in their journeys, who maybe aren't willing to spend quite as much as 70, 80 pounds. And I think that when you're able to get names like Glenrothes, like Caol Ila, you know, and they're good expressions, arguably there's better or worse out there. But for sub 75 pounds, for sub 60 pounds, actually, sorry, I think that that's a good thing. I do think it's a good thing. I hear what you're saying, though. I do hear.
Well, it doesn't really matter, lads, because they're not going to be around for much longer bottling these sorts of things. My question is to you two, who's going to kind of take this place of putting quality stuff out like this at these prices, because they are going to disappear,
I think at these prices is a thing of the past, to be honest, and that's why they've tapped out, because they know that it's not feasible to continue, right?
Okay.
Okay.
But aside from that, what I say is you sat with the Whisky Baron.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking
There you
about?
go. You up there, mate?
What are you saying? We're already here.
It is an end of an era, and it's quite sad.
It is. It
really
is. And this is the thing. I think that, like Ian says, now moving forward, to command those higher prices, you do have to put a special spin on it. What would be completely unacceptable, and I have seen it, is people putting out expressions like this Glenrothes, like this Caol Ila, and charging 80, 90, 100 pounds for it.
Happens
And people are
daily.
doing it left, right, and centre at the minute,
Yep.
and it's fucking disgusting. Because ultimately, that is, the Caol Ila. It's Diageo stock. They haven't done much to it.
Yep.
They've taken it. They've maybe put it into a cask of their own, but it's a
Fable.
Sorry?
Fable.
Granted. But this is it. They haven't done a huge amount with it, right? So anyway, look, with that being said, let's give it a bit of a roundup. We can go back and forth on this all day long, apparently. So 5 great whiskies today. We started off with the Glenrothes. So let's just rewind. We're at 55, 56 pounds on the Glenrothes. Ian, I have a feeling that you're going to say, don't buy.
Don't buy.
Okay, there we go. At least it wasn't a Bennett. I'll take it.
No, none of these have been it.
No. Cool. All right. So I don't buy from Ian. We understand where you're at with the Discovery series. For people at home who are new, though, don't let Ian turn you off. Stevie, where are we at with the Glenrothes? 56 pounds, sir.
I turn people off daily, mate.
You said it. Where are you at?
Where am I
56
at?
pounds.
Sorry, 56 pounds.
56 pounds. 55 pounds. 74.
Yeah, listen, I love the brand. That's actually a really enjoyable dram.
Cool.
Good luck finding, Glenrothes Lemonade. It tastes like that for cheaper.
For sure. Well, Ian thinks you maybe can. I agree. I think that this is a good buy. I'm not going to rush out and buy another bottle. It is a lower end Glenrothes. I personally prefer really high ABV Glenrothes that's going to sort of punch you in the face.
Go and get the Glenrothes Whiskey Maker's Cut.
And that's the one really good one out of their core range. Some of the other ones, disappointing for me. So,
Wow, top trump there.
so
And that's like 47 quid.
for sure. But if you compare this to their 12,
Oh, yeah.
But the 12's like 40 quid.
right? I'm just saying. I don't think that the premium on this is a bad thing.
Anyway,
that's all I'm saying.
On to the liquid 15.
So I would say I buy it. I wouldn't buy it again.
Cool.
I bought it. I'm happy with it. I think it's good. Liquid 15. Jesus, he's
got to bring him
he's
security
getting
in a
testy,
minute.
isn't he? He's getting testy. Liquid 15. Ian,
This is a very strong buy.
for sure.
I'm not going to give it an oosh, but it's not
Far off.
not a million miles off. For 70 quid, 75 quid,
Yeah.
it's a really solid whiskey, 46%, beautifully presented,
Yeah.
and just incredibly solid in terms of taste. And it's going to look good on your shelf and
Yeah.
taste good in the glass.
Definitely. Agreed.
Not much more you can ask for.
Strong buys from Ian. I like it. Stevie?
Strong buy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Straight up.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
a no-brainer. I'm exactly the same. I'm kind of with you, Ian. Is it an oosh? I don't think it's quite there for me. It's such a strong buy. It cannot disappoint. It's something that you should share with everyone. Have it on your shelf. Strong buys for the Liquid 15. Moving on, Mortlach, obviously, we didn't try today, but we've all tried it before, so I think we should include it in the lineup.
Sure. 85, 86 pounds, something like that.
At most, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool. So 85 pounds, Ian?
Pretty much the same for the same reasons, right? And Mortlach's obviously it's going to taste a little bit different to Mortlach, to the liquid, a little bit meatier. I like the flavor profile. Again, it's nice sherry dram, very good value compared to the official 16-year-old.
Yep.
Strong buy.
Cool. Stevie?
The Mortlach 15 for me is an oosh.
Yes.
It's got a really special place. It's one of, as I explained, that bottle that I saw, wow, impressed me.
Yeah.
The box, I went and bought myself 1, 2, 3, maybe third bottle now. It's great. It's a great introduction to those distilleries that you won't normally get to try, or at least, have a lot around on the market. Love the sherry profile, as Ian sort of described. It's special. And for £85, it's a fucking great deal.
Definitely.
It really is.
Definitely.
Strong buy for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Stevie. I'm giving this one an oosh. And the reason being, kind of going back to what you said, Ian, it's from a price comparison point of view to other Mortlachs on the market, this is without a doubt, in my mind, the best value for money Mortlach that you can buy. It does not fail. It is consistently delicious. it's hit it out of the park, and it's so. I love the fact that you latched onto it, and you need to find yourself a fourth bottle, mate.
Well, before everyone else does.
Fuck all left of it, yeah. It's a great brand. It's a great distillery. It's a fantastic bottle, and one of the ones that really actually got me into the whole Gordon MacPhail range quite early on. So it's a oosh from me. Get that Mortlach in. We then moved on to the Glen Tockers, which I had stolen away previously without knowing. 25-year-old Glen Tockers, 58, 57?
57 dead. Yeah.
57 dead on. Happy days. Remind us the price, though. 220.
220.
Okay.
200 to 220.
Ian, where are you at?
I think it's still a buy. I'm not sure I need another one, but I'm very glad I bought it.
For sure.
Went down very well in the tasting, and yep, I've really enjoyed it.
Cool. Stevie?
It's a don't buy from me, purely on the price. I think it's a great example of Glen Tockers in sherry, as it always is, right? That we've had time and time again. But it's just a little bit up there. There's a few things like Leche 20, albeit 5 years younger, and a few other bits and bobs that you can get from this range that I would go for first. But thank you for bringing it. So don't buy from me.
Yeah, I agree. It's a close one. I'm probably a little bit more on the fence than you, probably because I'm a bit of a Glen Tockers weirdo. But yeah, I'd probably be paying 175, 180 pounds at tops. And like you, Stevie, the reason for that, like you say, you had that Leche that was 140, 150. You know, I've seen other bits and pieces that I would sooner, if I was looking at a Gordon MacPhail lineup, I'd sooner jump at. Exactly. It's a fantastic whiskey though, and I'm not far off by it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think, you know, those BBR bottles were 180 in comparison.
Yeah.
So also 25 years old.
For sure. Look, it's not bad value. It's a close call for me. Just a don't buy, but thank you again so much for sharing it a second time with me. Delicious. And Caol Ila, we're back onto the Discovery series. Don't be too mean, Ian. Go on.
Here we go. It's going to fight. It's going to break out here.
It's a don't buy for the same reasons as the Glen Rothes, right? I just think I'd be quite happy with a Caol Ila 12 and a bit of change in the pocket. You know, I have had a single cask Thompson Brothers. I just still have it on the shelf. 10-year-old for 50 quid as well. And I think, you know, if you want more Caol Ila in your face, like, I'd rather lose a couple of years and go up in the ABV.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I hear that, definitely. Fair enough. All right, so don't buy from Ian.
Yeah, so don't buy from me too. On the basis that, if it wasn't for that Thompson Bros 10 that you bought and a few others I've had, there's a lot of Caol Ila out there, right? And it's very competitive in their prices. It was lovely, but I wouldn't go buying it again. It was nice to try it, so thank you very much.
That's good. Look, I'm happy I bought it. I'd give it a buy. It's just about a buy. I definitely hear what you guys are saying, and I think, you know, if you're an experienced drinker, as you've just highlighted and as you've banged on about the whole fucking episode, there's plenty of other stuff out there that you can find. Some of it will be better priced and some of it will just be more interesting.
Yeah.
But I think as a Discovery series, which to me is pitched towards the slightly newer drinker, I think it's a great buy. I'm not disappointed I bought it. And what did I say, £55?
It's great.
It's actually,
for that reason,
it's good value for money.
All in the name, Discovery.
Yeah,
right?
and so it's a buy from me. It's just a buy. It's not something that I'm going to rave about, but I'm glad I've got it on the shelf. And yeah, if anyone at home is interested, you come on round and share it around.
What a brand!
What a brand. Yeah, seriously cool stuff. I'm very excited to watch as they develop the two distilleries that they've got now. I'm very interested to see what happens moving forward with them as an independent brand. Hopefully they don't disappear from the fold too quickly, because as I say, they've given me a lot of inspiration and also just, you know, really helped me explore the world of whiskey, even not from a business point of view, just from a personal pleasure point of view. So awesome brand. They've also got great reps. And what I would say is anyone who wants to go to a whiskey show, Gordon MacPhail are usually there, if not with one of their distilleries as G&M. And they've got awesome reps. They're always very, very generous with their time and with their pours. So head to the next whiskey event that you can find.
Or a tasting, because
or
it's going to be a thing of the past, right?
For sure.
So,
definitely.
Yeah.
But a wonderful lineup, gents. 5 pretty delicious whiskies, I think, you know, whether we bought them or not. I think a good day of whiskies. Thank you so much for joining, as always, and everyone at home. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please do drop a like, and if you don't already, you should be subscribed, so make sure you're subscribed to Uncut and Unfiltered. Equally, We'd love to hear what your favorite Gordon MacPhail bottle is. So if you've got one, drop it in the comments. If you think that Ian is an Egypt because the Discovery series is amazing, I would love to hear that. Drop that in the comments as well. Always a pleasure, never a chore, gents. Have a wonderful afternoon. All of you at home, take care and see you soon.
Cheers.
Slàinte.
Tally ho.